This is a video of a talk from Crater Remote Conf given to a live audience in February 2016. This video was made possible by sponsors like Modulus.io, okgrow.com, and SpaceDojo.com. If you would like to find out more information about upcoming conferences, be sure to go to conf.crater.io and put your email in the form that pops up in the lower left corner. Enjoy the video. All right, so welcome back to our last talk of the day for Crater Conf today on the, the February 10th. We have Ramsay Lanier with us. Did I say that right, Ramsay?
No, it's linear.
No, linear. Totally butchered it. All right, so Ramsay works at Include. And writes all kinds of interesting things there. And you've been experimenting with WordPress and GraphQL and all kinds of fun things too, haven't you?
Oh yeah, WordPress.
Yes. So,
all right.
All right. So I'll let you take it away.
All right. Sweet. All right. This is weird talking to my computer and not getting to see everybody, but thanks for sticking around and letting me bring home the last leg of the first day of CreatorConf. Today I'm going to be talking about using CSS modules with React and why inline styles are bad things. I know they're very, very popular in the React community, but hopefully I can change some minds and hopefully not hurt anybody's feelings. So again, my name is Ramsay Lanier. I'm on Twitter as verybadhello. And Ramsay Lanier is my GitHub username. Also, there's links to the slide deck, so you can follow along live in the info section of Crowdcast, and also there's a link to a Boilerplate repo that I'll be going through if you want to go ahead and clone that, or at least just open it up. Cool. So first, let's talk about why inline styles are even a thing. There's some general issues with CSS. The biggest issue I think that inline styles and other things solve is the fact that CSS is inherently globally scoped, meaning styles are accessible anywhere. And the biggest problem is you could change a style and have it affect a different part of your application without knowing it. Inline styles prevents this by having all your styles in your component. So you don't have to worry about changing style in a component and having that affect a different component. This also leads to some, CSS also has huge problems with specificity conflicts. If you have ever done any front-end development and use CSS, you probably know what I'm talking about. This is a nice clip I took from Smashing Magazine, but it shows how specificity is calculated by the browser. And to avoid some global scoping issues, people will do super crazy nesting of styles, and it becomes a real big hassle. This is alleviated by inline styles, again, because everything is locally scoped to your component. And also dead code. This is like a little snippet I took a website I made a while ago, but you can see margin bottom and font size are negated by a more specific style. With inline styles, you don't have to worry about really having any dead code. Any code that you're writing is going to be used by your component. So there's some other issues with CSS, but these are the main things that front-end developers are really trying to tackle, and they should be dealt with properly. But we have problems, and Taylor Swift is my favorite. So how do you do things like hover states in inline styles? How do you do pseudo selectors? How do you do class composition? You can't do that with inline styles. You can't use any precompilers like Sass or Less or Post CSS. How do you handle these? Well, there's a really popular package called Radium which attempts to alleviate some of these problems using inline styles. So here's a really good example. This is taken straight from Radium's website, their intro. But we import Radium, and you can see right here on the button you've got this style object, which is an array of styles. And you've got styles base, and then you're passing in a prop of a kind of button, and then it picks that style. So you've got this styles object down here, which maps to styles here. And notice here, this is what Radium gives you. Things like hover. So with Radium, you can style hover, active, focused, and you can do media clips. So that's pretty neat. However, how do you do something like first of type with Radium? You really can't. I mean, this is basically how I think you would probably end up doing it. You'd have to map through a list of buttons and then figure out if your index is 0, and then give it, the first style here. So styles first or styles base, and then do it this way. This is really, really ugly. And this is just to get the first of. Last of type, a little bit more difficult. You want to do every odd one, every even. Nth of type, things like that become pretty impossible. So I'm going to go through how CSS modules alleviates a lot of these problems using this example. So here I'm importing a NPM package called react css-modules. We're using actually ES7 decorators. Don't worry, I'll show you how this is all set up. So also I should have mentioned that the boilerplate that we'll be going through is using Webpack with Babel. So you can use ES6 and ES7, or 2015, 2016, whatever you want to call it, JavaScript functionality. Anyway, so we use this decorator. And what this gives us the ability to do is we can now use style name and base. And then this is just our base button type, color white. We have a nice hover state. But then you can do regular old vanilla CSS, or this is Sass, but you can do first of type. So it's a lot easier. I mean, this is a contrived example, but there you go. So I'm going to go through a boilerplate setup and show you how to use React. How to use React module setup. And so the basic setup is going to be Webpack, Node, and Express server. So we're going to use two configurations in the boilerplate. We have one for development and one for production. If you aren't familiar with Webpack, don't worry. This is kind of crazy, but it's very similar to a general Webpack setup. However, the only difference really here, and you can see I'm using things like Webpack dev server, so you can get hot module loading and stuff like that. So Webpack's really, really powerful. But I want to point attention to this part. So we're using Webpack loaders, and basically what's going to happen is Webpack's going to look for any file that's got a Sass extension, SCSS, and then it's going to run through this loader. We're going to get source maps, which are very, very powerful. And it's going to run through basically create CSS. It's basically going to create classes for us based on a file, based on the path, the file name, and then a local variable. So you can see, and you can modify this if you want, if you don't want underscores or whatever. This will make more sense when I actually go through the output. But this is really the heart of the setup here. And then on production, there's a slight difference. The way this works in development is it's going to inject a bunch of style tags right after the opening body tag. So you're not going to get a CSS file. What we do want in production is we want it to generate a CSS file for us. So we can minify the CSS. You can possibly serve it through a CDN to cache it. It's not going to block loading. I mean, there's numerous benefits as to why we would want an actual CSS file instead of a bunch of inline style text, especially if you have a very large application. So the only difference here is we're using this extract text plugin to basically going to extract text into a file called app.min.css. This is going to go into our distributed folder. At the end, I'll show you what this all looks like. But just know that on production, we're going to be creating a minified CSS file. This is the node server. There's really nothing magical here. This is pretty standard node server. Just see if we're on development, we're going through Webpack dev server. Hot loading is set to true. Yeah, cool. So I want to take a break and let you guys watch this GIF because this dad is amazing. Look at him. He's sleeping, and then all of a sudden, he just magically saves his daughter from impending doom. I don't know why I included this in the talk. I thought it was really what happened is I Giphy searched examples to find a good GIF, and this is the first one that came up, and I thought it was amazing. So nice break. All right. So this is a link to the boilerplate. It's also in the info section. I've actually chopped this up and put it into the slides. Down below here, we've got all the Webpack config and everything, but this is the main application folder. Our main.js file it's using React router. It's basically just saying load app or like import app, the app component, and then pass in another component, whichever route you're on. The only thing really to note here is that we're importing styles from this app.css or .scss, this Sass file. And so what that looks like is this is the file, styles that we're importing. So I'm importing some basic global styles. So I want to reset. I want my fonts. I want some variables. I'm using a typeplate plugin for all my typography, and then some z-index and stuff. But this basically to show you that like you still do want to have some global stylings, but all these styles are very, very low specificity, and then you can overwrite them using styles in your components. So when you go to the root, it's going to render this homepage component, and then it's going to render a bunch of sections, which are their own components. There's a page component. One thing to note here is I'm actually sending in a background image. And this will be important after I show you what these sections actually look like. So this is the section component. It looks a little crazy, but don't worry about this render post title part. What I want you to see is we're importing CSS modules, and then we're importing styles from a Sass file, which is right here. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you an object of all the class names that are inside section. It's not going to give you any styles, but it's just going to give you the class names. And then we look through our render. We get a type. One thing I should have mentioned is if you look, every section is get the type. It's a prop, primary, secondary, dark, tertiary. And this is what's going to determine what styles, what everything looks like. And I should mention that this is basically what this homepage looks like. So I'll go back to that in a second. But this is basically what this is rendering. So we've got our sections and our types. What it's going to do is it's going to return a div, style name is equal to type, plus a background class. So we're checking to see if there's a background image attached to it. We want to add a background class to it because we want to change some of the background styling. The other thing I really wanted to show is that you can still use inline styles with this if you wanted to. One of the big reasons you want to use inline styles is for background images. In your CSS file, let's say you're pulling a background image from your data source, you're not going to know what that is in your SAS file or your CSS file. So you're going to want to do that inline style. So you can still do that here. We're setting the background image style to the background image prop that gets passed in, and then we do style equals BG. So you can still like kind of use them both together if you want. All right, so this is the bread and butter of why I really love CSS modules, because everything is locally scoped and you can compose different classes. So I'm going to walk you through this a little bit. Now, let's go back to our sections. Remember, you have type primary, secondary, dark, and tertiary right here. So here's our primary class. It composes base, and then it composes these two classes from a separate file, colors.sas file, which I'll just jump right into it's probably be easier if I open this up. So we've got, I'll bump this up a little bit. But notice that it's importing all these classes from these different SAS files. So you can get very, 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 like this, if you're familiar with atomic CSS, where you have one class for every style. Turn my notifications off. Rookie mistake. You can have one class for one style. So for instance, I've got child1 container justify center from Flexbox. So I'll go into styles and look at Flexbox, and all I've got are classes with one style to it. And then you can compose classes inside of it. So every one of those sections is going to be base, but it's also going to be a different color. Primary background, secondary background, dark background, tertiary background. And then if it's got a background image, we're going to get some background size cover, background position, center. And again, you can actually do, this is another good thing that you can do with CSS that you can't do with inline styles. You actually have pseudo elements. So you can have before and after elements, which is impossible to do with inline styles. And then we've got our title, which again is composing a bunch of styles from our typography. The beauty of this is how it actually generates your classes for you. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to inspect the source. Check this out. So if you look at this div, look at all these classes here. These are automatically generated for us. Remember when we go and looked at Webpack config, and we said generate path, name, and local here? That's what's happening here. At components, sections, and then triple underscore section, double underscore secondary. So the beauty of this is you don't have to like manually write these class names out. Instead, all you have to do is in sections, you're just like base, primary, secondary, dark, and it gets converted for you. So you have locally scoped CSS. You don't have to ever worry about specificity issues, and you have no dead code. Also, and the last thing I want to show you is how awesome hot module replacement is. So let's look at these titles. They're font size 6 vertical widths. I'm going to change it to something ridiculously big, like 20, and save it. Oops. And then we get hot module replacement with our CSS as well. So didn't have to do any refreshing or anything like that. This really, really drastically speeds up development time. It's very, very easy to try to debug some CSS issues that you have, although hopefully you'll have a lot less. The last thing I want to show you is what it looks like when you run. This boilerplate is run using NPM scripts. So when you run npm build, it's basically going to do a bunch of Webpack stuff, and it's going to generate this distribution folder. So you're going to have your index file, and it's going to Remember at the very beginning of the talk, I said it's going to generate a minified CSS file for you and put it into and link to it in your head. And so then, voila, here's your very long minified CSS file. So now you can cache it, do all stuff like that. However, you don't have to worry about in development, you still get hot module replacement because everything's in line. So that being said, that's pretty much my take on CSS modules. I guess we can open it up to questions now. Josh?
Indeed. Trying to find the right buttons.
There we go.
All right. So feel free to start adding your questions, guys. We got a couple here.
Oh, there's no questions?
No, there's two.
When I did this, oh, okay.
Since Meteor isn't using Webpack in 1.3, do you plan to use Webpack post Meteor 1.3? And if so, what keeps you from switching to the Meteor way?
I do plan on using Webpack. I actually haven't, full disclosure, I actually haven't been using Meteor a lot recently. And when I was using Meteor for a project that I started at actually last Space Camp for Reruled, I was actually using Webpack with Meteor. There's like a really awesome boilerplate for it. And so literally all I was using Meteor for at that point was just DDP.
Yeah.
So I probably won't use 1.3. I listened to Transmission episode 3, I think, when they were talking about Webpack. Little shout out to Ben. And I was a little...
Episode 5 now, right?
Whatever, sorry. Whichever one you talked about Webpack. And I mean, 1.3 sounds awesome. Like using modules is really cool. And I definitely understand the need to be backwards compatible with old Meteor apps. But I'm a little worried that MDG is going to keep falling behind because Webpack 2.0 is about to come out, or it's already out. I don't know. And so by the time they finally do decide to use Webpack, I'm just a little worried that they're going to be a little bit behind. So I personally don't have any plans. But configuring Webpack is a huge pain in the butt. It is.
Yeah.
It is gnarly. So
yeah, I think you know,
I understand. Like, I mean, I started with Meteor and like it, you know, opened up the node world for me and Webpack and. You know, I mean, without Meteor, I never would have like gone down this path. So, I mean, I definitely understand why it's so popular.
Yeah, I think, you know, to me, they remove kind of the config stuff that you have to deal with, and that can be kind of a blessing. And they're also kind of curating the interesting parts of the JavaScript community for you. Which isn't exactly like that can't be a fast thing, right? Like it took a while for jQuery to be the clear winner over other options early on. So, you know, that stuff takes time. So
yeah,
good.
Definitely. I do know I was actually talking in the creator Slack chat earlier today with somebody, and they were using React CSS modules with 1.3. And it totally works. So like you don't need to have Webpack for this talk. It's totally going to work in 1.3. All you need to have is modules. The one thing you won't get, I don't think, is you won't get the ability to have it generate a CSS file for you. I don't think.
The production stuff.
Yeah, it's going to inject everything into your HTML. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I don't know.
It matters. In my opinion, it matters, right? Like having recently written about CDN and why you should do it, I think it matters.
Yeah. that is definitely your jam. And then, you know, I mean, getting into Webpack, like the nice thing about Webpack is you can do code splitting. So you can have, you know, a bunch of different CSS files depending on your entry point. But anyway.
Yeah. All right.
I see some people are talking about grunt and gulp in here.
Yeah. You should, if you want. if you have questions about that kind of stuff, feel free to pop them in. So we'll keep going on the ones that we got voted on here. Oh, we got a bunch of questions now. There we go. If our app is all Blaze, would you recommend? I think you're going to be a little biased here, but would you recommend to starting to write all new views we add in React and slowly trying to transition old views, or is waiting for 1.3 or later perhaps a better time to start transitioning?
That is a lot of questions. That's a big question for a lot of people, I feel like. I actually started doing that. I think right around the time Meteor announced the React package. I don't know. I guess it was like a year ago now. The beauty of it was that I was able to like slowly piece out components. I think that would work. So I mean, that's if you have an existing application. I mean, that's the beauty of React. It's really just the front end stuff. So I mean, you can throw it in or replace stuff slowly.
As a matter of fact,
I mean, I was pretty vocal about my disdain for Blaze at Space Camp. When we were doing like the hack projects, I had to use Blaze, and it had been a while since I've used it, and it was very slow for me, like development experience wise, because I'm so used to React. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm like a huge React fan. So
yeah. I kind of figured you'd say that. And you know, it's funny, like we've got the comments going on over here, and someone mentioned Sasha's video stuff, which is good. And then in the Slack chat, we're also kind of having a conversation back and forth about whether Blaze is dead. And my personal opinion is like they effectively kind of killed it by saying we're not gonna use it going forward. And then they were writing the guides, and they're like, holy crap, we can't write these guides. Oh no, we're not gonna kill Blaze, right? I don't know. For me, I think that caused a lot of the momentum to shift more towards React, and I think that we're going to see a lot more interesting stuff happening in React going forward, and I would probably push that way myself. Just from what I'm seeing in
people, it looks like people are worried that React is going to be something different, or there's going to be something newer than React next year or 2 years from now. And yeah, I mean that maybe sucks, but also I maybe I'm weird, but man, I love it. I love the constant churn of stuff. But I'm weird. Yeah. I like playing around with the new stuff.
Definitely. I mean, you know, I think it's like comparing React Native and Cordova, right? Like Cordova was a great tool to get us somewhere, and now React Native is like a better version.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the other thing about React is like I honestly don't think it's going away anytime soon. Mainly because it's, I mean, the hot new thing now, or it's not new, but it's becoming a lot more popular. It's functional programming, right? So then you get into functional UI components, and I mean that's the beauty of React is you can have pure function components that you know are very, very easy to use and build. I mean, once you get over the learning curve, which does take a little while, like it becomes second nature. Just probably like you know, using Blaze was when you had to write helpers and, you know, trying to like transition from like learning really how to use events in Blaze over like jQuery. You know. Yeah. Now I'm just
let's take another one. I don't know. Rambling. Stop rambling. All right. Wouldn't you be sacrificing portability by building your components in this way, Ryan Burgett?
That's it.
Hopefully I said that right.
It depends on how you do it. So when you saw me composing all those classes, right? That definitely is not going to work unless those files that you're composing classes from are there, right? So I mean that's a great point. But I mean, you can definitely structure your app to where it's only using styles from inside of its own files. Or what you do is you make a component or like you make like a package that has all your basic styles, right? Like your reset, your typography styles, stuff like that. and then you just include that in every package, and then those files will always be there, and then you can pop in your UI components as you see fit. It takes a little bit more. I guess the answer is it takes a little bit more planning up front, but maintaining is way easier, and that is always the pain point when developing websites, at least for me as a front-end developer.
Nice. All right. Jesse wants to know, does inline styling ever feel completely okay?
The only time I ever use it is like in my example when I use background images. So I use that a lot in like my WordPress experiment, like pulling in background images from a database and then using that. But that's the only time. Every other time it's whack. I did give this. I gave a very similar talk like last month to people live, and some people were like getting pitchforks ready to run me out of the room because they're like super entrenched into inline styles. But if I can like convince one person to not use inline styles and go the way of CSS modules, I'll be a happy person. That also being said, like because development is so like things change so fast, like I'm sure there's other solutions out there that I don't even know about that might be better than CSS modules. I've been using them for 6 months and I haven't I've been so happy with it I haven't like even tried to find a replacement for it yet.
All right. What are you using instead of Meteor these days? The mean stack?
Well, I guess the project I'm working on is WordPress without PHP. So it's I guess it's mean stack, but instead of Mongo, it's MySQL, essentially. Oh, it's not Angular either. It's React. So MER burn stack. I don't know. Yeah, nothing like. There's no catchy. Yeah, but it's.
We need a V in there.
And I don't know where GraphQL comes in or Relay, and now you get like this long crazy thing. But I am using. The project that I'm actually like the application I'm actually using it's still Mongo with Meteor. It's just using Webpack as a build tool.
The bless you stack.
I just burped and it was audible, wasn't it? Less slob.
All right. Are you just out of luck for some of the more complex pseudo selectors?
Oh, with inline styles, you mean? Yep. I'm assuming that's what the question was. Like, if you want to do like one of my favorite pseudo selectors is like not first of type or not last of type, because then you don't have to write like. If you have like a list of items and you want them to have spacing in between them, you can do like margin bottom 1 rem, but you don't want it to be in the last one, so you just do not last of type margin bottom 1 rem, and voila, everything's nicely styled for you. Trying to do that in inline styles is like impossible. You have to write like a loop for all your elements, and like it just becomes untenable at that point, I think.
All right. How long do you have to write code for the hot load to make up for the configuration cost up front of Webpack?
The boilerplate that I have that I showed you is like Frankenstein between lots of other like boilerplate things that I've kind of put together to work. So I'd say I probably spent like maybe 5 or 6 hours like getting it together.
He's requesting in seconds, please.
Oh, in seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. 180,000 seconds? Anyway, it definitely, if you're just trying to like create an MVP and it's like a really simple app, then, by all means, like use Meteor, but with, just Blaze or inline styles, whatever. But if you're like building an application with multiple developers and you all have to maintain different aspects of the front end, like it's way easier. And the other thing is like the biggest thing when I do WordPress development with PHP, like for clients, like I have to like really like namespace out all my elements and think about it and hope that when I change a style, it doesn't like affect a style on another page somewhere. And then when it does, like I find out like 2 days later or whatever, oh, I messed this style up. Probably because I don't have like really good UI testing framework.
You know, that brings up an interesting point. Have you ever used any kind of UI testing framework? Like, I know I don't even think there are many around anymore, but there used to be one that Facebook had that would like render the page and then like render the page with the new code and like circle the differences.
There's oh man, I saw a really great talk on it. And there's this one testing framework that like works with Browser Stack, and like you basically give it a list of browsers and like operating systems, and it will run through all your tests and give you like videos and screenshots of everything. It sounded really awesome. It took like a lot of configuration to get working. I think it works with like Selenium to give you like a headless type of Phantom.js type of thing. So I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. I'll think about it. I'll remember. I'll put it in the Slack somewhere.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. All right. We can take a few more. Is inline CSS visible in the browser? Is it possible to debug them in the browser? Don't they show up like in Chrome? They're like the top like element.
Are you talking about inline styles or with CSS modules? With inline styles, it's going to show up.
Yeah, so, inline styles.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I mean, that's the other. I didn't even mention this about inline styles, but like, because you're not using classes that are repeatable. So if you want to like debug in the browser, like you can't just go and change like a value, like a font size in a class or like a background color in a class and have it change through every component. You have like, because they're all in line, there's no classes. So that makes it, you can do it by element in Chrome because the styles are all in line. If you're using CSS modules with classes, then obviously it makes debugging a lot easier. The other thing I forgot to mention is server-side rendering becomes pretty difficult to do responsive if you're using inline styles because everything's rendered on the server and you don't know necessarily. I'm sure there's probably a solution to this, but if everything's rendered on the server, you don't know what the viewport is or like how big the screen is that it's rendering to. And so if you're using inline styles to calculate that, that's not going to work very well. Whereas if you're using CSS media queries, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So another reason why inline styles, there is probably a solution to that somewhere, but little aside there. Server-side rendering.
Yeah. So someone mentioned Ghost Inspector. Is that maybe what you were thinking of?
That's not it.
No?
No, it'll come to me in a second.
Okay. So Darren asked, is there a place where common Webpack configs are published?
A place called GitHub. That's a joke. Yeah, I don't know, man. Just like usually, I usually will just Google. Honestly, like the things that I found is like I'll usually just Google like using Webpack with React and GraphQL, and then someone's written a boilerplate for it. And it's always a link to GitHub somewhere. I mean, that's usually how I found them. Yeah, that'd be pretty a neat
search
project.
Medium.
Yeah, Medium's good.
That's where everything is now.
That'd be a good thing. Make like a repository of good Webpack configurations for different types of projects.
Yeah, I've seen other stuff like that, right? Like, so something more like Atmosphere where people can just say like, oh, here's a Webpack config.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right. So where can people find out more information about this PHP-less WordPress?
It is wordexpress.io.
Word.
It was trending on the front page of GitHub yesterday.
Nice.
I finally got some stars. Shameless plug. I can talk about that briefly, although it's not. I am using inline style. I mean, no. I'm using CSS modules there. Yeah, so basically it's a Node application with Express, and then it's using GraphQL server and Relay to query a SQL database, and then fetch the data and pipe it into React components. It's been really cool. Like, I actually wrote a npm package. I'll get a link for that in a second. That basically all you have to do is give it some connection details to a WordPress database, and it will like automatically connect to it, and then give you access to a GraphQL schema. So that's my first ever npm package, and hopefully I spent a good amount of time writing documentation on it. So hopefully it makes sense. I just put that in the link there. So it's been really awesome. I actually gave a presentation on it yesterday, and I'm like really excited to see. I'm waiting for someone from WordPress to contact me, because I hope it happens. They've already like rebuilt their admin interface in Node Calypso, and so I think they know that the future, if they really want to be like not just a blogging platform, they want to be like an application development CMS type of thing, then that's the route they're going to have to go. Yeah. So I'm really excited about reactive GraphQL, because I think that would be like really, really cool to work with. And
yeah, I saw it. You left some comments in there yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been like pouring through the Meteor data repo, all the comments about how they're building reactive GraphQL, and I started playing around with some Redis caching, trying to like figure out how they might do it, and I realized that it's like way over my head. I'll let Sashko and Aaron Noda figure all that stuff out, but I am like super behind it, and it's gonna be pretty awesome. And James, right? James is working with them.
Justin.
Sorry, Justin. Oops.
Well, I do think James is maybe giving input too.
Yeah.
He doesn't work at MDG.
No, I know, but I think Sashko seems like really open to working with people outside of MDG, possibly. So that's really awesome to hear.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Indeed. All right, last question. I think we kind of went over this, but Robert asked, can you cache inline styles? Oh. This was the CDN stuff we were talking about, right? Like,
I don't know how that would work. I mean, I guess if you're doing, I guess you could. It would cache. Yeah, I mean, you're caching the whole view component itself, right? It's like or the rendered HTML. So I mean, it's in line with HTML. So if you're caching a page, it would cache those styles.
So if you're using something like an e tag and checking the if modified since header and that kind of stuff, that would all get cached in there, which actually would potentially be bad, right? If you change the inline style, but I guess the e tag should change.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not my area of expertise, but yeah, I mean, you definitely cache it. I think it'd have to be rendered on the server, obviously, because it would be like that style gets determined. If it's not server side rendered, it gets determined on the fly, like when the component is being rendered.
Yeah. All right. So that was
questions?
it.
Awesome. First day done.
I think, yes. I think we'll just end by saying that it looks like Blaze won our little informal viewer poll here. We took a
Was it
poll, what
for a
front-end
poll?
option to use with Meteor. Yeah. 12
I
votes
didn't
React, 15
Nope, I didn't vote.
Blaze, 1
I
Angular.
didn't vote.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't vote.
Oh, someone else voted too.
Oh no.
All right.
All right, cool.
It's close. It's not like Sanders, Clinton, Iowa close, but close. Now everybody's voting. It's getting closer.
Everybody just use it what you're comfortable with, man. I don't like arguing with people because I feel like it's not productive. Like, just go build stuff. If you want to build it in Blaze, it's not really going to be much different. It's just what you're comfortable developing, honestly.
jQuery. Pete wants you to build everything in jQuery so he can go hack you easily.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Ramsay, for the talk. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
All right. And we will be back tomorrow with 4 new talks. Will be exciting. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This video has been a Space Dojo production. You can click the Learn More button to find out more about us at spacedojo.com. Or you can click the subscribe button to get notified about new videos we put out each week. Thanks for watching.